How's it going, everybody? I'm your host, the Carolina Collector. Happy Friday to each and every single one of you. If you woke up here in the free South, it's cold outside. Alexa, what time is it?
It's 8:44 a.m.
So it's early in the morning. I just cracked open my usual sugar-free Red Bull, not sponsored. Thank you so much to each and every single one of you for your kind words and your continued support. My eBay customers, friends, family, neighbors, everybody across the board. There's going to be some extra thank yous here. I want to thank certain neighbors of mine that have really been spending a little time with me and having certain conversations. I've been distancing myself from certain individuals and certain people for good reason. As this video progresses, I'll see if I get into that a little bit more. But I want to thank Pineville Police. They were up here on my patio again the other day, so I want to thank them personally, and one of the things that they really need to learn, and I know they have a job to do and I understand that, is that they really need to stop victim blaming. They have to stop blaming the victim. Obviously there's been a lot of things that have been surrounding me, whether I was directly involved with or have bore witness to. Like, there was a big argument and fight up here where I live in my buddy's old apartment. My buddy Wolf, who passed away over the summer, young people moved in there and there was a big fight and somebody was waving around a real firearm, not like what I have. I don't have firearms, but they were waving around a real firearm on their patio around 9 o'clock, I think Sunday night. And then the argument they moved the argument into the parking lot on the other side of the property here where I live, and somebody let a round off, and I called the police almost immediately, and the same actually, I think two of the officers who were involved in what happened with me Friday night were here, and I said, do you see I'm telling the truth now? It's not me. I don't know if I have a bullseye on my back or a black cloud that's hanging over me or some weird mojo voodoo stuff that's going on, man, but it's not me, and I thank God I was able to capture, a whole bunch of this stuff on video. I sent video of that to the leasing office. I did release those two videos, at least the video of the actual shooting and then the video of the aftermath with the police here over on my YouTube shorts. But, I did send that to the office, and two of the officers that were involved in what happened with me last Friday, they're like, we believe you, man. Like, it's just unfortunate because of the victim blaming that goes on these days. It's really a shame that if you're the one who is involved in any kind of altercation or what have you, or a self-defense situation like what happened here with this knife-wielding maniac, and you choose to be a good Samaritan and step in, people unfortunately are going to start looking at you like you're the bad guy. And it's messed up how society instantly takes everything and inverts it and switches it and manipulates it and molds it into something that it's not. It's disgusting based on their biases and their political beliefs in a way that they view the world. That's the one aspect of human nature I can't stand, is narcissism like that, And, that situation is in the hands of those who it has to be in. These last two things that, again, unfortunately, that I was in the mix. I got sucker punched over at Walmart. Unfortunately, that man was banned, and they were looking to, detain me. But I was screaming at them, look at the damn camera that's right over your head. There's a dome right there. And when I don't know if he was a sergeant or a corporal, but they actually went and watched the footage and saw what happened. And then, you were intimidating. I'm like, yeah, I'm 6'1". The guy was maybe up to as tall as the top of my brim right here, maybe an inch or two shorter than me. But he turned around and sucker punched me right in my neck because he was a young black kid with 3 little children, apparently and allegedly with him, that chose to do this in front of these 3 children. The staff even said it, that he chose to do this in front of these little kids. But he sucker punched me because he was probably offended that I was talking to my African-American neighbor, whom I have a wonderful relationship with. He might be a little feisty and he has his little quirks and stuff, but him and I get along quite well. And this young man got offended by that, I guess. And I said right to his face, I could see what you're trying to do. I grew up in New York. I know how people like you operate. And he took offense to that. And that's what made him sucker punch me, because he was probably angry that a white guy and a black guy can actually be friends. Imagine that, getting along with one another. So, but, I'm doing all right. Everything with me is okay. I had my moment of grief and what have you, and then focused on my business, and again, I want to thank Pineville PD for coming to my home and offering me some really sound advice. And a lot of you who I know off camera here who are on the property have been giving me some sound advice, and I've had to unfortunately implement that and really start separating myself from certain things and certain people because they're dragging me down. And it's unfortunate that, I just have, I guess, that weird knack for being witness and bearing witness to things that I wish I didn't have to. Again, like what happened with this knife-wielding lunatic, that happened a couple weeks ago. And, the shooting that happened here. Thank God nobody got hurt, but someone let off a round here in the parking lot. And the fight started right here where my buddy Wolf used to live before he died. And then they were fighting and arguing, and thank God I got that on camera. I sent that video to the staff, the very next day or the same night or whatever, and made sure that they were informed about what was going on. And I called Pineville, to show up, and that kind of, with all of that combined, they came by just to see if I'm all right. And we talked about, I got to be careful here because I know certain people are watching my channel, but I'll just say that certain names were brought up. For the sake of this conversation, I'm not going to discuss this particular subject, but let's just say the police here in my town are now informed about a certain issue that seems to continue to be a nuisance. It's like a puppy dog constantly humping your leg every time it sees you. I'm not going to get into what that means for good reason because this is social media, but at least now they're aware of certain individuals that have been causing me problems. Now their name is out there, so I'll leave it at that. But otherwise, I'm having to pull myself back and withdraw myself from a lot of things, unfortunately. I've been spending some time to myself. I bring my little fold-up chair and my table and my radio. Yesterday I filled up my little pink sippy cup with ginger ale and sat and talked with one of my neighbors. And there's an elderly family that lives on this side of the property who I've got to know quite well, and was talking with them and just separating myself from all this crap, because not only is it harmful to me, it's harmful to my business, and it's not a good look. And unfortunately, I think people have become, especially around here, a little too dependent on me, unfortunately, and I've had to stop that. And yesterday, if you watch my YouTube shorts, the same thing was happening again yesterday. Do I have this? Do I have that? Can I spare you? Do I have any change? Do I have any money? Do I got a $5 bill? And that shit needs to stop. Obviously, I think I have it a little bit better than others around me. A lot of people here, I'm not going to get into their personal situations for good reason, but I think people around here have become just a little too dependent on me, and I've now had to step back and withdraw myself. And yesterday was a good test because immediately, as soon as I went to Walmart, which I got a little update about that, I'm already getting shaken down for stuff. I got people coming knocking on my door looking for stuff, and it's got to stop. It has to stop, and I have to be selfish, unfortunately. I cannot continue going to help and going to everybody's rescue. It has to stop, and I've had to stop. I can't even leave my door open without somebody peeking their head in here, and it's like I've got to really, be a little bit more vigilant and just say enough. My generosity has clearly been taken for granted, and it needs to be shut down. And that's what I've been doing. And yesterday was a good test of that. So, sorry, you have every right to be selfish. Let me take a swig of my Red Bull. Not sponsored, by the way. As a matter of fact, this was something that the management here even said to me, that, I should be more careful about, certain people and giving people car rides and doing that kind of stuff because it could look bad for me. And unfortunately, that was advice I kind of shrugged off because I'm kind of used to, managing myself and being in charge of myself. And, I would consider myself somebody that makes, pretty good decisions. But in this case, unfortunately, my tendency for empathy, clouds my judgment sometimes. And I do genuinely feel sorry for certain people because, except for myself and maybe 2 or 3 other people that live in this building where I am, we're the only ones with vehicles and cars and, has, a steady income flow and all that sort of thing. And that's been clearly taken advantage of. So that needs to stop. So I want to thank the staff here for giving me advice that, unfortunately I brushed over, and that one I own, so it's a lesson learned, when certain people are telling you certain things, they're probably telling you for a reason. So I've had to withdraw from really, really, sticking my neck out for others. It's unsustainable. It's no good for my business. It's no good for me, for my emotional health. I can't do it no more. Yesterday, again, like I said, with the panhandling that I witnessed, that's done. I'm finished with that. I can't be helping and saving everybody. I need to take care of myself, and I've I've had to put up a wall. It's that simple. So I'm not going to bore you anymore with that. I actually went to Walmart where that incident took place, where I was sucker punched in my neck and essentially assaulted. And thank God that a high-ranking Pineville PD officer was there, because they wanted to detain me, the victim. The victim blaming needs to really stop. And I'm going to say that publicly, because this is not the first time where I've been involved with something. It's the same thing like with my ex-girlfriend, what happened this summer, where I was blamed for all sorts of stuff and accused of things. And I had to go to court and fight it off because I know what happened. I lived it, and based on the evidence at hand, well, guess what? I was acquitted, and the charges she was trying to have on me were dropped. And this is yet another case of me at least having a camera over my head where things could be seen, and I'm screaming at them, look at the damn camera. And of course, I was proven right yet again. And then they were trying to make excuse, especially the one officer, well, he said you were intimidating. I'm like, yeah, I'm 6'1" and 200 pounds. And this guy's not that much shorter than I am, but he walked up to us and was instantly giving me dirty looks. And he was probably offended that a white guy can actually be friends with an African-American man. And he didn't like that and took great offense to it and kept, talking over me. And I'm like, I know how this works. I grew up in New York. I know how people like you are. You're offended that I'm friends with a black man. And he didn't like that and punched me in my neck. So much for getting along with people, right? But, I went to that Walmart and apologized to the staff. I went there again last night to pick up some ginger ale and stuff that I needed and bread and what have you. One of them actually gave me a big hug, and the other couple of them were like, you're all right? And I'm like, I'm still kind of sore and hurting a little bit, but otherwise I'm healing. It's going to take a lot more than that to stop me. Obviously, I'm here, I'm breathing, I'm whole. But again, I want to thank, the officers that came up here the other day from Pineville Police, who really, really have really given me some great advice, and if I need to make phone calls and stuff like that, I have the ability to do so now, which is fantastic because, man, I need a line of sight. I can't keep running into the fire, so to speak. So, at least that's been solved, and, I got that off my conscience, and also from what I've been told, this guy's been banned from ever stepping foot in that Walmart again. And I've been in there 3 times since it happened. So, I want to thank the staff over there as well. But now that all of that is out of the way, let's get into some spoilers for the channel. I do have Missing Link RC. This is the cartoon correct version. I didn't want to get the prototype. I didn't want to have an RC that I really have no interest in. And this is my first RC, by the way. So this will be my next review for sure, if nothing else happens. But the reviews I've been seeing of her have been absolutely amazing. And this potentially could outshine Missing Link Optimus Prime or any other Missing Link toy from that line. And I just got Missing Link Sunstreaker, which I reviewed here on the channel. But this is going to be a fun review to do. And God knows I need to do a good, fun review. I also want to dig into my Transformers backlog just a little bit. I forgot I even had Gears. He's been sitting up there in my closet along with a bunch of other He-Man figures and Transformers toys I haven't reviewed yet. So eventually I've got to get around to him. I'm going to get into some sports card talk soon, especially to continue my little mini series about how I ship my sports cards. These little arrows finally showed up, which I've been using on my envelopes now to kind of guide the eyes of the incompetent postal worker who's sitting behind the desk, who's too busy eating his donuts and drinking chocolate milk, because I had one or two returns where it couldn't be scanned. You know what they were doing? They were scanning, there's like a barcode on the labels that you print out, not on the ground shipping ones, but on the eBay labels with the QR code. So now I've literally had to buy arrows. I've been marking my envelopes now with magic marker with arrows pointing at the QR code. And I'm already using labels, scan before delivery and fragile, handled with care. And it's crazy that you literally have to point this stuff out to these people. So at least, now I got those little stickers and now I just stick them on, on the envelopes. And, with certain cards now, I think I talked about this where I'm using postage stamps to supplement the shipping so that this way you don't get back charged if you're a customer of mine, because that does happen on a rare occasion. Colorado is the worst offender. I don't know why. But, I'll continue that series. As a matter of fact, how I ship multiple cards in one envelope and all that kind of stuff. So we'll get into that in future videos. I do have, I don't know if you can see on camera, I actually have 2 orders that I printed out. I got 2 more that I have to prepare, that I got 2 more sales. I did list a whole bunch of stuff, including some jerseys from my personal collection, because I lost so much weight over the years that a lot of my jerseys just don't fit me anymore. Most of them are size 2XLs. And I did have a retro jersey I bought many moons ago back in, I think, 2011. It's a Bayern Munich 1970s retro jersey that I had customized with Gerd Muller's number 9 on the back. And it's just way too small. Now I'm kind of like somewhere in the middle. I'm floating around 200 pounds when I used to be close to 300 pounds. But, I'm letting go of some of my jerseys in my collection because I want to make some room. It gets a little overkill after a while. So, and plus I want to make room for future stuff if I decide to get anything else. I really haven't been going jersey crazy, except for 2 examples that I have right here. And we're going to talk about these jerseys in upcoming videos. This one I ordered last year. It's a Bayern Munich long sleeve retro jersey. I love retro Adidas kits like this, especially Bayern Munich jerseys. I'm a huge fan of Bayern Munich. And I love this thing. And I went out and I found the number 10, which is a striker's number or a forward's number. It doesn't really represent any player in particular, because that's not modeled after any particular jersey that they actually wore on the field. It just has a nice retro flair to it, or feel to it. And then there's this. This is Bayern Munich's new stadium jersey that they just released. DHL dropped this off a couple days ago. And man, do I have a lot to talk about with this, because a certain orange man caused the price of this jersey to increase because of his tariffs. Not going to get into that too much. I'll save that for the video. I'll bitch, moan, whine, and complain about how much more that jersey cost me to have it imported from Bayern Munich's German website. I get what Orange Man is trying to do, and I voted for Orange Man, but geez, when you actually try to go and get something from overseas, I know he's trying to keep everything internal, and he wants to boost the American economy and stimulate job growth and try to get products. And I wish Takara had a factory here so we didn't have to have these imported anymore to keep the costs down. He's trying to keep manufacturing here. We should be independent of everybody else. But, we do have a global economy, but we've been bent over on a 90-degree angle and effed in the A so bad by a lot of these people. I don't blame Trump for doing what he's doing. And he's been talking about stimulus checks. Whether that happens, remains to be seen. But I still can't believe how much more that jersey cost me to get here. I mean, yikes. And for now, I think that's pretty much it. I think that's everything I wanted to talk about. So just a quick recap. I'm doing okay. Trying to plug the holes now, so to speak, and trying to avoid certain people because they're clearly dragging me down. One of the most recent questions I've been getting lately from the people around me is, am I going to throw a Halloween party like I did last year? And the short answer is most likely not, because I can't trust people to behave themselves. And of course, if I decide to buy beer and stuff like that, they're gonna do a beeline straight to the beer. They're not going to come dressed in costume and all that kind of stuff. They're just going to sit there and get wasted with free beer, and I can't have that. I don't want that anymore. I've unfortunately and reluctantly, and it's my own naivety to actually, want to believe that people just live to get stoned and effed up and drunk and whatnot, and then, trying to take off my objectivity glasses here, or put them on, I should say, excuse me, put my objectivity glasses on and take a look at things for what they really are. I'm watching people drink from 8 o'clock in the morning to 8, 9 o'clock at night. And there have been times, unfortunately, where I'm guilty of this, is enabling some of that behavior. And that's stopped as of recently. I need to protect myself, protect my name, protect my business. And it's just not healthy for me, and it's not a good look. So, the short answer is probably not. I do have a couple costumes or uniforms that I want to review on the channel before Halloween. Hopefully I can get that done. But I definitely want to review this next. RC. I can't wait. I'm probably going to review this today. So look out for a double feature. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I'm into my usual 20-minute spiel here. So let me end it right here. Again, I appreciate all of you, ladies and gentlemen, and your time, your patience, your continued support. God bless you all. I've been turning to the good book, and I've been watching a lot of religious movies off camera. One of my favorite ones is The Greatest Story Ever Told with Max von Sydow. You might want to watch it. The Ten Commandments, Ben-Hur. Movies like that I've been watching quite a bit of. And getting my health back in order, and continuing the diet train. And, I'm healing fairly quickly. I got a big black and blue under here. That's healing quickly, but it's just trying to reboot myself and just putting my foot down, unfortunately. And sometimes it's my own fault, because sometimes I have a problem with saying no. And that needs to really, really change. And I really have to thank Pineville PD for this one, because, they know I run my baseball card, stuff here in my eBay business here, out of my home. And, they said it quite clearly that, other people can really ruin your reputation if they really want to. And despite your best efforts to try to be, the keeper of the peace, you can't save everybody. Don't try. That's what we're for. It's like, I got it. So now I have a direct, connection to them if I need to call them directly, so that this way, I can keep my home safe, keep myself safe, especially for my well-being, my sanity, my sanctity. I just want to live a life of peace, man. I don't want this crap no more. I really don't. But on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to ramble on anymore. Let me give you a break from my usual 20-minute videos here. Take care. God bless. Stay safe. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Check out my eBay store. The link is in the description box below. I did list a whole bunch of new stuff, new cards. I do have a couple more I want to list today before the end of the day. I got these orders I have to get out sooner than later. But thank you all. Thank you all. I want to thank the staff here where I live, the maintenance guys. Every time I see them, they're always waving hi, all that kind of stuff, and the ladies in the office, they're always amazing. I know they've been putting up with a lot of crap lately, but God bless them too. They're really, really good people in there. All of you, my friends, my family, everybody, I deeply appreciate it. And many of you have been sending me, some kind words and some good karma and some good vibes, and I can use it. Definitely. So look forward to Missing Link RC being reviewed, hopefully today. I'm your host, the Carolina Collector. Take care, everybody.